The long countdown has ended. On Wednesday, Lewis Hamilton and Scuderia Ferrari took their first steps in Formula One. Sir Lewis made his debut in red on the Fiorano circuit. As expected, the excitement for the seven-time Formula One world champion's first test was evident in the incredible fan turnout, similar only to Michael Schumacher's first approach nearly 30 years ago. The English weather conditions did not prevent the driver from Stevenage from completing his daily work schedule. The arrival of the seven-time world champion was preceded by an enormous communication effort from the historic Italian team, meticulously organized over the past 2 days. The approximately 30 laps completed by Lewis Hamilton 3 days ago could be seen as part of this strategy. However, there are strong reasons to believe that what happened on Wednesday was not just cinema for the fans around the world. At the same time, let's reflect on the use of the SF-23, the Testing Previous Cars program chosen by the prancing horse for the track tests. Thinking about the somewhat surprising decision as the first test was expected to be with the Ferrari F1 it could be argued that the work done by the British driver on this gloomy Wednesday was not necessarily functional to the 2025 technical project, which is still in the assembly phase. This raises the question, what use can Lewis Hamilton's handful of laps have had on the gloomy morning in Modena? Let's try to answer this question to understand and justify the choices made by the world's most successful F1 team. Considering the limited time spent behind the wheel of the 2023 car, the British driver was able to gather initial impressions on Ferrari's power unit. At this stage, it is important to note that the development of hybrid turbo power units was frozen by the International Federation in September 2022. Lewis Hamilton has always raced with Mercedes-powered cars and is very familiar with the characteristics of the M15E performance engine. Therefore, undoubtedly the approach to the 06612 engine and its functioning modes was important. There will certainly be an opportunity to more accurately appreciate the differences between the two power units, which will also be used in 2025 before the introduction of the second-generation power units planned for the future championship. Secondly, the seven-time world champion has always used brake discs from Carbone Industries in the recent past. In contrast, Ferrari has always used Brembo discs. The particular way of using the brakes could be the most important area of learning for the new driver of the historic Maranello team. A crucial aspect, as Lewis Hamilton has always been accustomed to being very aggressive by delaying the braking point. Last but not least, Wednesday's test session was the first operational track outing and represents the starting point of the learning curve between Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari. Both parties involved have begun the process of mutual understanding. For the Englishman, it is about absorbing methods and processes certainly different from those he was used to at Mercedes. The prancing horse, on the other hand, will need to understand the British champion's needs and leverage his wealth of knowledge. It's also an opportunity for growth for the Maranello team. In short, what until a few days ago were two foreign elements will now need to learn how to work together and mutually understand the strengths linked to their working methodologies. In this phase, the contribution of Charles Leclerc will be very important. Although younger in age, he represents the veteran of the Maranello team on the eve of what will be his 7th Formula One season as an official Ferrari driver. For the Monegasque, Ferrari is what Mercedes was for Lewis Hamilton, the team that nurtured him from the lower categories. Charles knows very well that the total knowledge of the environment is a factor in his favor that he will try to exploit, especially in the early part of the season. Fans hope that the technical project 677 will be up to the level of the drivers. If that's the case, the only potential issue could involve internal management, which is always the sweetest of problems for those fielding a competitive Formula One car. With Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, Ferrari will present itself at the Bahrain preseason tests in the last week of February, a very important 3-day event for all F1 teams who, for the first and last time, will be able to test their new cars before starting the 2025 racing campaign. A different atmosphere has been felt in recent days in Maranello. Undoubtedly, much of the credit goes to the arrival of the 7-time world champion, who has literally enchanted the fans, going from enemy to one of us. We fight together. This is somewhat the motto of the historic team, which the Italian supporters reaffirmed yesterday during the first shakedown of the British driver. A track test where Lewis drove an old car, but one that was fitted with the same braking system as the upcoming car. As previously mentioned, we're referring to Ferrari's Brembo system, on which the Englishman spoke very positively. In 2024, various qualifying problems stemmed mainly from braking phases. This was directly shared by Andrew Shovlin in recent weeks. The prancing horse has been working for some time to bring back the great performance of the Briton in qualifying. It's no coincidence that he is the driver in history with the most poles, an impressive 104, able to extract maximum performance from the car with little fuel like few others. Another brilliant interpreter of this practice is the monegasque. Considering his experience with Brembo brakes, Charles Leclerc has given many tips to the Englishman, who struggled considerably last season with Carbon Industries discs and calipers. There is also the other consideration about the power unit, a different engine compared to Mercedes. We're especially referring to the ways in which the hybrid system is used through the K2, K1, and K1 Plus maps. Overboosts that offer peaks of power recovered by the motor generators to gain advantages at specific points in the stint. Lewis has become familiar with the controls and tested the various modes. The same goes for the tires, an issue to which several maps are dedicated. The Britain's work has just begun, but there are already those who are convinced that poor performances will be plenty in comparison to the younger teammate. Hamilton, at this point in his career, when he is now 40, might even deliver a performance lower than Sainz's. This is one of the most widespread thoughts among many fans on social media. Naturally, the same individuals judge the switch between the two as a mistake. For this reason, if the SF25 offers the Maranello drivers the chance to win, they believe that it will undoubtedly be Charles who leads the way. Maybe not always, but over the course of a season, the general impression of the fans and media is that the Monegasque will prevail. Just think of the years of dominance when his teammate was Valtteri Bottas. The road will no longer be downhill for Lewis. 9 words that perfectly encapsulate the essence of the speech. And it could indeed be like that. No one denies it. However, underestimating the Briton is one of the most foolish things Charles Leclerc could do. The veteran at Ferrari feels stronger. This much is true. Or at least he wants to prove it to himself, his team, and all the fans. But doing it is another matter because the Englishman's spirit has been renewed. The drive he possesses has awakened some of his dormant talent. On the other hand, making a fool of himself is not in the plans of 7-time world champion. The courage to change, a phrase that Lewis has made his own by choosing to end his career dressed in red. Wanting to take on this challenge underscores the right madness that a driver must have to fuel his ambitions. Immersing oneself in an unknown culture, after breaking all records, was something unimaginable. Yet the bet did not scare the Englishman, aware of the risks but unafraid of them. A winning mindset that will help the entire team working in Maranello. In this regard, there is a phrase from Verstappen, who knows a thing or two about victories, said last year while talking about his car, "A strong driver adapts to the car and doesn't expect the car to adapt to him." In his case, it was a jab at his teammate, Sergio Perez, who kept complaining and then struggling on track. Well, using this advice from Max, considering the work Lewis will have to do, we can say that the new Ferrari driver has everything to make the same impact as the Dutchman. The last of Frederic Vasseur's concerns is exactly this. The Frenchman is betting blindly on Lewis. He is strongly convinced that his contribution will be outstanding, and at the same time, he is certain that he will give Leclerc a tough time, much more often than expected. So, now we just have to wait. The track, as the supreme judge, will give an answer to all these questions. Question marks that will be erased soon. Lastly, a tip for the fans. Beyond opinions or preferences, watch out for Hamilton and his target to become world champion for the 8th time, but this time with Ferrari.